So I'm taking the van for a test trip. I'm heading up to a hot spring for a week, and I've got the van loaded up with a sleeping bag and a jug of water, um, some snacks. The driving snacks are totally key. In terms of the van build, I have all the walls up, all of the electrical system in, the floor in, all the insulation, windows and fans cut out. I'm hoping I'm a little more than halfway into the build. Next up, I'm going to work on the water system and start the plumbing. But I wanted to take a test trip just to take a break. I was getting a bit burnt out just from working so long and so hard on the van. It's been almost 6 months of like pretty much full-time work doing this van build. Some jazz, of course. So I was just thinking a little bit about the why in all of this. Like, if you've been watching any of my videos or following along, you might be wondering, why am I doing this? Where did this idea come from? So I'll share that. Last year in 2023, I was traveling abroad for most of the year. But even before that, so let's go way back. I graduated university right into COVID. I finished just before COVID happened. And then I started a job in software engineering in Seattle, and I worked full-time for 2 years doing software engineering at a big tech company. But it was a pretty lonely time for me. I was working from home most of the time, and a lot of Seattle was locked down for the beginning of it. And I was just spending so much time behind a computer and in my apartment working. And it just felt like I was being a bit too professional and a bit too career focused too early. I still wanted to do some adventuring and try some different things out in my 20s. Plus, I didn't have a romantic partner, which was a big priority for me. Like, that wasn't working out in Seattle. So what I decided to do was, after 2 years working for that company, quit my job and go traveling abroad. So I left work at the end of 2022, and in January 23, I flew to Japan. I started traveling solo kind of in Asia for a big chunk of time, like 4 months, traveling around Asia. And then I met up with my sister, who also had just quit her job, and we traveled around Europe for 3 months together. And while I was abroad, I was really liking traveling and being nomadic, kind of being on the move, always seeing new places. And what I realized was one of the best things about North America, and the US in particular, is the highway system and the national parks and just our access to so many different cities and nature via driving. And I had heard some about people who converted vans and drove around. I'd had some friends who had tried that. And so I very naively thought, when I get back, I'll kind of spend the rest of my savings on buying a van or converting a van in like a few months, and I'll be on the road and try this out. That didn't turn out to be the case. It's been 6 months, and I'm like halfway through this van build, hopefully more than halfway. I feel like I've gotten the most complicated things done, like the electrical and the heater. So those were hard DIYs. But yeah, that's kind of the original motivation. And then so I had that idea while traveling. And the secondary thing was I was working in software and working remotely. So I kind of figured if I had an internet set up in the van, I could still do work from the van. So I thought, okay, I'll have some kind of access to a way to make money. I tried the city thing. I lived in Seattle for 2 years, had a couple different apartments. And I just wasn't super happy up there. I really liked the city of Seattle and loved my coworkers, and parts of it were really great, but I don't know, it was like not it was not this correct place for where I was at in life. I wanted to experience new places and be meeting new people. And so, yeah, I was kind of ready to get out of the city for a while, try something else out. So I wanted to get out of the city. I had the remote work as an option. Another part of it was I've always wanted to learn how to build. I come from a computer engineering background, but I've never really built much with my hands, like anything physical. I really was like, I liked Legos when I was way younger, and did like a little bit of woodwork in high school, but nothing like the scale of this project that I'm working on now. This is so much more advanced than anything I've done. And some of that inspiration comes from my granddad. His name's Orist, and we share the same middle name, Zenon. He is Canadian and an engineer. He studied electrical engineering in Canada. And he basically just went out into the wilderness and built a cottage by himself. Plumbing, electrical, construction, the whole thing. And I thought that was so cool. So impressive. And before the internet and like modern power tools, it's truly amazing. So I was trying to channel a bit of his energy into building this, thinking that if you believe in yourself and you have the will to do it, you'll figure it out. You just got to be confident enough that it's going to work out. There's been times when I've been pretty sure it's not going to work out. Like, it's been a stressful process in many ways. Installing the gasoline heater especially, that was very stressful. It's also just so much work. It's so slow going. It's so expensive. It's an incredibly expensive process, especially because I'm totally new to this. So I've had to buy every single tool, and there's been some wasted material too, because I don't really know what I'm doing most of the time. So there's scrap material, and I buy too much or too little and have to buy more. Yeah, it's just a complex process. So this is just kind of like a check-in on some of my motivations. So yeah, I talked about traveling and my original idea and wanting to build, work remotely, and experience new things. I guess the last thing I'll say is it's just kind of just always been a dream of mine to do something like this, you know, kind of go off the beaten path a little bit, take a break from the career rat race, and like just try something else out. I figure that fully building out a van and living on the road for a while is that. It's definitely something else. Yeah, so if you're still watching and hearing me ramble on, thank you for watching my videos. I appreciate the support and the comments. They're definitely part of the reason I keep doing this. It's fun to share with friends and family and new people on the internet and just get feedback. And it helps motivate me to keep going, because it's a hard process. So, yeah. Thanks for watching. It's so green. I love it.
In a quarter mile, turn left.
Alright, first night in the van went well. I stayed pretty warm. Slept alright. Not the best. It's kind of up and down, but yeah, it's the morning now. I just had breakfast. Night 2 was a success. The rain has stopped and I'm drinking coffee. It's a beautifully sunny day here now. A bit warmer. Just boiling some water. Finally getting some solar wattage, charging my batteries. After 2 nights of mostly rain, using Starlink and the heater, I'm still at 88% battery. So really happy with that. Oh, the sun feels so good. I'm going to start this morning with a little bit of van planning, probably some reading, a cup of coffee, and then soak and chill. So I'm onto the water heater project. I'm doing some planning now. So this is the freshwater tank I'm going to use. That over there is the water heater. This is 24 gallons freshwater, and this fits over the wheel well. So it's kind of shaped to fit the wheel well. And then that's a 4-gallon hot water heater tank. I'm just kind of thinking about positioning and how I'm going to mount everything right now. I'm leaning towards mounting the hot water heater in a vertical orientation and adding some like support braces on the wall. I haven't finished this yet, but I've been doing a lot of diagramming to figure out all my plumbing fittings. So like how I'm going to fill and vent and drain and pick up water from the freshwater tank. So I'm working on the ceiling right now. My plan is to make these slatted planks with 1/4-inch Baltic birch plywood and put like this black cloth up above it for contrast. Originally I was thinking to do plywood panels, like break it into a few sections of big plywood panel, but there's not a really good support system for setting that up. There's these big gaps right in the middle. And I was worried that I would maybe get some sag and it would actually just be more difficult to install. So yeah, I think this is going to look pretty cool. There's weird cutouts around the max air fans and lights, and the front's going to be very hard to work on. But this is kind of the simplest method I could think of that I think it's going to look pretty good. a little progress update on the roof. So for the front section, turn this light off. What I've done is put a piece of 1/2-inch birch plywood across this front section to allow my ceiling planks somewhere to fasten into. And how I ended up doing that was I drilled I think it was a 3/8 inch hole into this ceiling metal, put a rivnut in, and then put a bolt through and fabricated these aluminum kind of angle brackets. So I have 3 of them. And then I cut a piece of 1/2-inch plywood to fit on the bottom side. So that's what that looks like, and it's nice because it follows the curve of the ceiling. So the plan is to span, like a board will run through here, fasten here, and then fasten here, and this is really, really solid. It would have been definitely easier just to use sheet metal screws and pierce through, but I haven't used any sheet metal screws in the van because they can cause rust, and it makes it kind of harder to reverse whatever you've done. Whenever you use bolts, they're stronger and much easier to reverse. And they actually wear with they're more resistant to vibrations based on what I've researched. So I've mostly finished the back side of the van. I'm probably about halfway because I got to take these all off again. But I think it looks really good. What I've done is used 1/4-inch Baltic birch plywood, slatted with 1/2 inch in between each of these planks. And I've created a cutout for the MaxxAir fan and for some of the puck lights so far. So this is the back half of the van. And then going forward, the center board goes up to the MaxxAir fans, but the rest of them cut off here. And I'm going to do a second run from here to the front of the van to this spanning board that I just built. And then after that, I need to take them all off again for like the millionth time. I've put them up and taken them off so many times. I got to take them all off, sand them, put some finish on, and then my plan is to put like a black cloth behind them to create a black contrast so you can't see through these gaps. It looks pretty good right now, honestly, but right now you can see like the cords behind it and also this shiny silver reflective insulation. So yeah, it's going well. So the centerpiece is the most important. So really be careful to mount it in the center up here. And then all of the other pieces will be spaced at 1/2-inch intervals from that centerpiece. Alright, so I just finished dry fitting the ceiling. These final boards in the corner front of each side, I felt like it took 2 hours per board to try to fit those in there. It was crazy. This took so long. But I think it looks pretty good. Now I got to take everything back off, finish all of the wood to protect it, both on the interior and the roof side.
And then I'm planning to put this black cloth behind all of the boards so that you can't see through to the wires and to the aluminum insulation. Although I don't think, if it becomes really hard to refit and get that cloth up there, I might not add that because this has already been so time consuming building the ceiling. But yeah, man, I'm done with the fabrication of these boards at least. Now it's just finishing and reinstalling all this stuff. So I got the rear ceiling panels installed. You can see those up behind me. So I'm using this black cloth draped behind the panels for some contrast. And I applied Rubio monocoat finish on the interior of the panels. So it gave it a slightly like yellow sheen, and it will protect it from moisture and make it a bit more durable. But I think it looks really good. Came out well. I have these panels prepped. These are the front half of the panels. So on the back, I'm using this one coat polyurethane to protect the rear. And the other side, I'm doing the Rubio monocoat. This is what it looks like. Got the max fan trim ring installed also. I think it looks really good. I'm glad I went for this design style. Here you can see how I'm unrolling this cloth as a backer, and this is actually what is under it. So the layers are kill mat, sound deadening, and then thin slit thermal insulation. And then this is an easy cool reflective insulation. Then I have the cloth that goes over and kind of hides all the wires in this reflective insulation. And finally, these ceiling boards. It was a bit tough to remount all these boards exactly into their holes, because once you put the cloth there, it's not obvious how to get them exactly where they were before. So I've created this like diagram measuring the exact space between each of the boards to help me return them all back to their original location. So it's very time consuming. Not sure if I'd recommend it for other people building a van to do it this way, but the end result I think looks pretty sweet. So yeah, back to work.